I'm an atheist, I suppose, by definition. You're an atheist by definition. So, would you believe that your purpose in life
Well, the purpose was to be honest.
just to live and die and decay under the ground?
Yeah, it's a sad reality.
So, do you believe that there is even a 1% chance that God does exist?
Oh yeah, I definitely believe there could be a God. I don't know though. There's no way of knowing, apart from what a few books.
I want to pose something to them.
Go on then.
Yeah, and tell me if there is any irrationality in my argument or my example. I've got two hands.
Yeah.
One is open. In this hand, there can only be good. Let's suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. Presupposition here.
That's a big supposition.
Yep. That there could only be good in here. Yep.
Yeah.
Fine. This hand is open, and I said to you pick a hand.
Yeah.
Now, as a rational human being,
I know the argument you're making. It's like the insurance policy of belief. Well, essentially, what I'm saying by that is, why not believe in a God or ascribe to a religion? Just if they, just in case. Why not? Yeah. I can't answer that question.
Well, you just talked about rational human beings. Rational human being has to
I don't know. I would say that is a rational thing to do, but then again, how do you know which is the correct thing to do?
As an atheist, do you believe that? Correct me if I'm wrong. You go underground.
I'm going to
Worms eat your
There could be a soul.
As an atheist, if you died as an atheist with the presupposition that there is no such thing as a God,
But live as a good person.
fine, and live as a good person, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah?
Surely a nice God would accept me into heaven if I'm a good person.
in your countries, in Saudi
First of all,
Arabia.
would you not have to go to the scriptures of that God and see what the actual terms are regarding that? For
Terms and
example,
conditions apply.
terms and conditions apply, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Just like with any job that.
Then what you're essentially asking is, surely everybody should do this, which means everybody then, controversial word, I can't think of a better one, enslaves themselves to a set of rules without knowing if they are true or good.
What I would say, correct me if I'm wrong with this kind of objective rationality here, is that we are all slaves of something in this world.
But less of a slave if
By
you choose to
definition.
not live by any set of rules.
By definition, that we are going to be enslaved by something. Right? Fair to say?
Not really, but
How would you define slavery?
indentured servitude,
Absence of freedom.
absence of free will, I suppose.
So we're not slaves now.
No, we're not slave rights.
Do you work?
Yes.
You work. Within which hours? Which parameters?
Well, I go into the office for 8 and I leave like 4 or 5-ish.
It's a nice finish time.
When you don't, I honestly, I really don't want to say in public, but yeah.
Fair enough, fine. So, 8 to 4.
Especially here.
8 to 4, 8 to 5.
Varies, yeah. Sometimes we work very long days, sometimes we don't.
Do you have a contract that you had to sign?
Yeah.
Fine. And that contract bound you to those hours?
He's the one that has the
Bound
It's a
you to
complicated
hours?
contract.
Okay. Nevertheless, there is a contract.
I'm bound to a lot of things, yeah.
You're bound to a lot of things.
But I willingly sign that contract.
But also, that contract you have an ability to review and amend if you wanted to. If you weren't happy with the pay, for example, you
No,
weren't
I
happy-
don't, but then
But most jobs do.
most jobs do,
You can either
yes.
say yes or no to it. I don't
So
like
in
the
fact, I am more of a
contracts
slave
on
than
the
most people, but
So that skips my next question then.
Yeah?
I mean, even I work privately, I teach privately. Nevertheless, I'm still bound by my students to the hours that they expect me to teach them, right?
But this
You
isn't
didn't like the
servitude,
terms
this isn't
when you take the
slavery.
job.
Well, I could hate the job, but nevertheless, I need to do something to put bread on my plate, which means I'm enslaved in the system just like anyone else.
You
in
have the
terms of-
freedom to choose any job you want to do.
Absolutely, but nevertheless, I need to sacrifice parts of my time and my day. You know,
But these jobs don't say that if
money
you don't
in
do
my
this,
pocket.
the other jobs are all wrong. If you don't do this, you'll go to some sort of
And this is the only
torturous
contract you
existence.
have.
Yeah.
Contract varies
The other
from
contracts
various
are false.
jobs.
All right, fine. So, I mean, nevertheless, you're still enslaved to something. That's why I said to you earlier, you're enslaved to something.
Slavery is the wrong term.
You have to eat to live. Yes.
Yeah.
You got to eat to live, whether it
Which
be
isn't
that
slavery,
It's a
that's
free choice that
that's
you've made
survival.
to support yourself. It's not, I will follow these rules because I want to save my mortal soul from
I know where you're
endless
going. You're
torturous
trying to
existence.
say that everybody's enslaved to something, a
Yeah.
contract, a job. That's just surviving.
It's a false comparison, I
Absolutely
think.
right. That's nothing to do with
false
religion.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, so we use something a bit more realistic here? So let's just go back to our first point then, yeah? So you're an atheist. No, that's right. Cheers, pal. Thank you for your input. So you're an atheist. You believe that ultimately...
I don't like to call myself that because you've got critics like Richard Dawkins, spouting bullshit all the time.
Okay.
But by definition, I am, yes.
What would you call yourself?
An atheist. Yes, I would, but then I don't want to be lumped in.
So why did
because
you
people
say
like to
that
lump them in all together?
when the guy asked, is Jesus God, why did you say yes?
Because that's what Christians believe.
Alright, so not yourself.
Not myself, no.
Oh, so you're just being a bit of a devil's advocate.
No, he was asking what do Christians believe, so I answered the question. It was like, sort of.
He was saying, is Jesus God? You said yes.
Yes, by the Christian belief, yes. By
Sure. So, just going back to it then, Ben, yeah? Why would you not choose any religion just in case? Just to have that fallback plan, just in case atheism is wrong.
Because what if it's the wrong one, and you end up confirming or by certainty, if it's the wrong one, you definitely go to hell, don't you? Whereas if you don't pick a religion, there's still a small chance that if you're still a good person, whichever one is right, will send you to heaven in the end.
That leads me to my next question. Okay?
Yeah.
Do you have more chance of entering a paradise as an atheist or as someone of any other religion whatsoever?
It's related to my answer, isn't it? Because like I said, if you choose a religion and it's the wrong one, you're definitely going. But if you don't choose any, and you live as a good person, as an atheist, whichever one is right, if they turn out to be nice, will take you in.
Is that what the terms and conditions of any religion say whatsoever?
I don't know.
If you're a good person?
I don't know.
So that's
I
a
haven't read most
presupposition.
religious texts.
That's a presupposition.
It's a hope, I suppose.
It's a hope. But there's terms and conditions.
I'll live as an atheist and I'll be a nice person and treat everybody well. And hopefully, if there is a correct religion, the Supreme Being will see that and take me into heaven.
Fine.
I think there's a small chance of there being an afterlife.
May I paint a small picture?
Go for it, yeah.
You're a project manager of this site here. Your duty is to manage the projects essentially of constructions being built in and around a 1 mile radius here. I don't work for this. I don't work for your company. Neither do you know me by face or by character attributes.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I come to here every day. Everyone in your company is contracted between the hours of 8 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah? I come here 8 o'clock every day and I finish off at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah? I may stay longer and I may come earlier, but I never breach the contract that your employees live by.
Right.
Or should we use the word now, because of the context, enslaved by? Yeah? Or within bounds of. Yeah? Fine? Okay. However, I have not written a contract. I haven't signed a contract, sorry. Yeah?
But you behave within boundaries.
I have behaved within the boundaries. Now, at the end of the month, 31st day of the month, yeah? Everyone in your company gets signed off a wage slip. Fine. Will I do, regardless of despite the fact I may have even outperformed anyone else that works under you, would I get a paycheck written for me? If I
How
had,
nice a person I was, doesn't it?
if I had hope, you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I haven't signed myself to a contract saying that I work within your company.
But that changes nothing. It depends on how nice. If you're comparing me to a god, it depends how nice I am. Shall I give you the same as everybody else, or shall I just say, nah, sorry mate, you went past the religion?
So you're presupposing then that if there is a God, I mean, and there are so helping that.
That if there is a
Helping
god,
that.
and he's decides to let me into heaven when I die after living as a good atheist, there we go.
You're a well-spoken individual. I'm not here to patronise you, but what I will say to you is that surely, as a man standing here in front of me now, healthy, well, okay, you must have taken certain educated, careful decisions in your life to be able to be standing here, healthy and well, as you are, in the capital city of the world, London town, right here and now with us all, right?
I've made some good and bad decisions, yep.
Fine. Would you say it's not a bad decision that you're just putting hope on something that could be not only managing your life here?
No, it's not a bad decision, because I've already explained that.
Supposing an afterlife. We're not talking about protecting your investments in this world. We're talking about supposing that there is an
I'll explain my
afterlife.
logic behind that. Going back to if I pick the wrong religion, then I'm certainly going
Do you
to
agree
hell.
with your own
If I live
logic?
as a good atheist, it's a fair gamble, I think.
Do you agree with your own logic?
I will
Yes, I
talk to you, and when I
Okay,
turn
so
my head and look
what
at
if we could
you,
prove to you? What if
that's
someone could
when
prove
heaven
to you
will
that
come.
there is a God that is existing?
If they could prove it to me,
Yeah?
if they could prove it to me,
Yeah.
then I'd have to work out what that God wanted.
Gives us all free will.
If he wants me to get down on my knees and pray 10 times a day, and that's the only way for me to live in immortal paradise, then I suppose I would do that. But, you know, it's pretty hard to prove the existence of God and what he definitely wants.
Could you compare God to a piece of clothing in any way whatsoever? Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think we can either. I mean, some people would say All right, so I went through Buddhism, I went through Sikhism, I went through Judaism, and every ism and schism there is, and it didn't fit me as a human being.
Yep.
Therefore, I rejected any of the texts that came with these beliefs. Yep.
Yeah.
But surely,
It's not the way I think about it.
how do you think about it?
Time
Well, not like
for
that.
argument, but
How do
one
you?
at a time.
To be honest, I don't very much. Apart from what I've already told you.
Sure. Okay. So, supposing there was a God, surely this God would give us some sort of proof whatsoever, right?
Why?
Why?
Why would you?
It's
what if
another
the-
question.
I mean,
But I'm
where
saying
has all
if
this
it was
matter
in
in the
front of
universe come from? It could have been created by God, but he could just be completely just not even noticed.
If
I forget
I
the word I
open-
want to use, but there could be a God and he just doesn't even talk to us.
The difference of the angle that I'm bringing and the angle that you're trying to supplicate with right now, is I'm bringing this phone. I'll give an analogy. I'll bring a metaphor involved. I bring my hand and I say, look, there is a phone in my hand, and you're saying, well, before I identify that there is a phone, I need to understand why there is a phone in your hand. But we're not talking about motivation behind. We're not talking about motives. We are talking about the actual existence of this object that I hold in my hand. Am I not? Why is a question that you would bring later along, wouldn't you? Just like philosophy, a theory is based upon a theory based upon a theory, and you could not get to the secondary theory without the first theory being there referenced. Would you agree with that?
I'm not really sure I see what you're saying.
Okay, so basically, instead, let's bring it back to what I was actually asking you in the first place.
The point I made is that there could well be a God, but he's just completely ambivalent to us.
Okay,
He
fine.
just exists in some other realm. He created the universe. Why would he talk to us? Especially creating, funny stories about random humans doing good acts or whatever.
I understand. I mean, it's a word that I've used as well here, and we're still speaking upon it, I hope, is the sense of rationality. And we comprehend in this universe what we find to have elements of rationality. Otherwise, if we can't comprehend something, we can't find rationality in it, therefore we can't believe in it. Would
What's
you?
rational about applying religion to things we don't understand?
Thank you very much. Now, before any question you wanted, that's the question I want. For me, I don't need to ask all of the question marks when I actually have the proof. When I have the proof, I've already established what it is there that is evident. Now I can ask about motives behind it. And surely enough, in the Quran, it is full of the motives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, our Lord, Master and Creator, He says in the Quran, in Arabic and then I'll say in English, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And the English translation of this is, and we, in brackets, the majestic plural of God, and we have not created jinn nor man, but for worship. So and we have not created jinn nor man, jinn meaning spirits, not the drink, yeah? Spirits nor man, but for worship. So now we have a purpose.
So man is created to worship.
Yes, sir. Right, okay. This is what we believe. And if God had said in the Quran, for example, we were created to scratch our backs, no matter what it was that was actually heavily spoken within that book or stated in that book, the first thing that we would need to do in order to take the words in this book serious were to find the existence, the proof first. If we can prove that the author of this book was in fact a miraculous entity, so to speak. Yeah?
So how has that been proved? Okay. So you're saying you have to prove that to believe what's in the book, right? That makes sense, but how have you proved it?
Alright, so we haven't proved it, but we believe that the author of this book has proved it. And the way he's proved it is that there are certain scientific miracles that are entailed inside this book. Firstly, let's take the presupposition again.
But you're taking the word of the authors of this book that these miracles happen.
Okay. In this book, would you agree that there are certain scientific miracles in this world that have not yet been put onto paper, things that have not yet been explained? For example, like...
Oh yeah, loads of them.
Yeah? Bermuda Triangle comes to my mind, it always does.
Yeah, there are lots.
There's loads, right? Okay, so from what we know about the Quran is a book that was put down 1400 years ago, somewhat 1400 years ago, by a man who we have a chain of narration about this man. He was illiterate. It's Muhammad. It's Muhammad himself. Peace and blessings be upon him. He could not read nor write. He was raised up for a period of his childhood as a Bedouin in a desert.
Yeah.
That's where they used to send the children in that day and age to toughen them up.
Yeah.
He could not read nor write, and he used to sit and reflect. He came in a time when there used to be burials of firstborn baby girls. He came in a time where people used to worship statue idols. I believe they used to have over 300, is it?
360, yeah.
360 statue idols.
And then from what I've heard, he went up into, I forget the name of the mountain, went into a cave, and God narrated the Quran to him, through him, and
Angel Gabriel.
So when and forgive me, this may be a bit offensive, but I'll try and be completely logical about this. So the way I look at Christianity is Mary supposedly gave a virgin birth. So let's look at that logically. What's more likely? A divine being impregnated her as a virgin, or she slept with another man and said, "Oh, whoops, I'd better lie about this because he'll beat me up if he finds out." It was a god. There's this religion, you probably never heard of it, and that's what happened. So Muhammad, one man going up a mountain for a few days and then coming back and saying, "By the way, this is the new truth." What's more likely? He's making it up, or
You know what, Ben? I'm happy that you're coming with these kind of critical arguments.
Forgive me for being offensive.
Absolutely not. I'll tell you why I'm actually happy that you come with these critical arguments. Because how can someone really establish any kind of certainty within themselves if they don't question the core of that certainty? Yeah? Or the core of that truth or false? Yeah? Now, you've actually hit the nail on the head. But the reason, before we even look at the logical argument or the logical rationality behind each of these cases, as you said, about the case of Mary and the case of Muhammad, the man in the mountain, for example, is going back to the text that spoke of these individuals, and then to see which one has more weight in terms of, or which one has weight and which one doesn't have weight in terms of its legitimacy. So, for example, in the Quran, going back to what we said about the scientific miracles that are pertained in the text in this book that was transcribed, and brought down to us 1400 years ago. Okay, so for example, in the Quran, it speaks of how the moon is a reflected light of the sun. Now, this is something that scientists only recently have come to ascertain as to be complete factual truth with evidence for it, due to the fact that they have now the technology to prove this. So this is a substantial fact within the science world. It talks about embryology. So it talks about, the way a sperm forms into the different processes.
What you're saying is the Quran said all this before it was scientifically proven. Yes, sir. Therefore, make it a scientific miracle.
Yes, sir.
I'd call it more of an educated guess, an estimate that turned out to be right. There's been lots of theories, some have been wrong, some have been right. These particular ones turned out to be right. I wouldn't call it a scientific miracle. But also, what I'll say this: what you're saying is essentially you're trying to argue religion from a logical standpoint, which I don't think you can do. Like I said,
why not, sir?
Because what I said just now, Mary could have cheated on her husband, Muhammad could have made it all up after coming down from the mountain. What you're doing, you believe because you have faith, and that's what these religions ask of you, to have faith in something that's difficult to believe. So you cannot explain it logically. I don't think you ever will be able to.
Can we actually now?
It's all about faith, isn't it?
It is. However, before we go into that, I mean, if you do have the time, and the courtesy to allow me the time to speak to you about it, can we actually question logical thinking itself? Meaning, for example, you have a child, assuming you're a father now, you have a child. That child, you teach that child growing up to eat, you remind it to sleep, you remind that child to go to the toilet, etc., etc. When that child grows up, it starts to have its own sense of logic, right? And that logic is something that is built beyond its scientific, biological parameters, within an understanding of its environmental factors. Could we both agree with that kind of statement? Yeah? Fine. Now, as a child, can that child have more logic than you as an adult?
More or less logic.
More logic than you as an adult.
I don't think that question makes sense, having more or less logic. Do you mean is a more logical thinker than an adult? Or?
Why doesn't the question make sense to you?
Because logic doesn't come in quantities.
Says who?
Well, it's a concept that can't be.
It's actually just a. Okay, fine. Do you know why we can't quantify it like that?
Why not?
Because we didn't create logic. Now, assuming there is a God, or assuming. Fine. Thank you for this. Now, how was this planet created? That's another question as well, right? However, this planet has its own synchronicity about it. Now, for us, the way that we operate in our world, we go about our own logic. times or slash our synchronicity, or one leads to the other. Our logic helps us to synchronize our day, for example. Yeah? For example, when you go to the toilet, you don't wipe yourself or clean yourself before you use the toilet. You use the toilet and then you clean yourself. And that is it's just a normal logic, isn't it? It's just something that is of, would you agree, a natural disposition? Natural disposition. Fine. So you believe in natural disposition.
I'm not really sure what the term is, but that's a logic that makes sense. Yeah.
Meaning,
Yeah, I guess I've observed it.
the fact that you've observed it means you've ascertained, or you have a certain platform of logic. Could you agree with that? Yeah. Fine. Okay, now, if you had created that cup of coffee, the actual liquid inside the cup of coffee, you know the exact ingredients that went into it, the exact methodology that went behind the heating of it and the brewing of it, everything, so to speak. Now, supposing now there is a creator, that creator who designed us and fashioned us, a creator who has kept gravity in its certain space, in its parameters, the fact that that creator has kept the sun at a certain distance, that if it was scientifically proven as well in brackets, any closer, this planet would be a fireball, and if it was any further away from our planet Earth, it would be an ice ball. Fine. Would it be more difficult to fashion that cup of coffee, that liquid, at the temperature that is a desired and required temperature in order for human beings to be able to drink it without it scorning or chilling our insides, than it is about a sun being at such a distance that it would neither turn this planet to dust or turn it into an ice
It's more
age?
difficult to make a good cup of coffee than it is to put a planet in the Goldilocks zone.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd argue that objectively it's far more difficult to put a planet in the life-bearing zone of the sun.
Fine. Okay. So now, if we take this a step further now, we'll just use one more example. Okay. So you're walking through the desert, supposing. Okay. Supposing you don't know what this object is. Let's talk 1,000 years back. You're Ben 1,000 years ago. Okay. Prehistoric Ben. Walking through the desert. Okay. You find this object in the sand. You pick it up. You turn it on. You see all of these little things. Something that resembles time. You figure it out after a while yourself. You know, it's got different apps on it, etc., etc.
And I figure that out.
Can you figure out, what would the first question you would assume to yourself? What would the first question you would pose to yourself about this?
Who made this?
Wonder what it is.
What it is?
And I would probably assume it was man-made.
It was man-made. Fine. I think that's rational thinking. I think that's logic. But what if, now I'm your mate and I'm in the desert with you, and I picked up and I said, no, that couldn't be man-made. It couldn't be. And if you look at it, this is glass. Glass is made out of sand. Plastic on the side of the phone is made out of oils. Rubber, plastic, sand, glass, oil. All of these are elements that you can find in a desert.
But they have to go through a process to be therefore man-made.
Okay.
And the right angles, all of this suggests that it can't be natural.
So that would make you suppose that this was definitely, because of its complexity, a man-made tool. Fine. Ben, man of rationality, intelligent, good speaker.
Thank you.
How about the complexity of this phone now led you to believe 100% without a doubt, with your logic, that by all means this was created by a man.
I know where you're going now.
Alright, listen. So, how about the planet?
Again, it's unanswerable. That's the root of all of this, is totally unanswerable, though, isn't it? The planet was created by rocks smashing into each other, eventually they attract gases, and there we have our biosphere. Yes, we're complicated, which, leads to the theory of intelligent design. There could be a god who could have created us out of his rib, he could have created us through the process of evolution, designing for himself.
So can I ask you,
or there could have been a primordial soup. Then again, I have proof that was created by man. I don't have proof that we were created by a supreme being.
Can we prove? Okay, fine. So you obviously believe in what you see.
If we
And that's
study the
rational
breeding of
thinking.
animals, it does lend credence to the theory of evolution, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. But you believe in what you see, right? If there were no men in existence, if you were the only man, if me and you were the only men in existence now, okay? And we found this phone, and you said this was created by a man. I said, well, I didn't bloody create it, and I'm the only person that's been around with you. You didn't create it, I didn't create it, he created it. Or what created it? It would lead us to that question, would it not?
But you're posing a pretty. I mean, you can't just pose a scenario like that and say, right, this supports my argument for God.
Fine. We walk through the desert. You find sand. You pick up the sand in your hand.
Find sand in the desert.
Fine, yeah. You pick up sand in that desert, okay? And you say to me, you created that sand. Or I pick up sand and I say, I created sand. What are you going to tell me? Make your own way through the desert. You're seeing those
I'll say,
mirages
well,
now.
you could have created less because this is boring and we're going to die of thirst. So well done, mate.
As incomplex, for example, as sand is, you can never come to the educated or any kind of rational assumption that I created sand.
Yeah.
Could you? Fine?
Well, I'd say go on, prove it, make some sand.
Prove it makes some sense. Fine. Fine. Yeah? Okay, cool. Now, if there is a creator of this universe, can we at least make the assumption, can we agree upon the fact that this universe was not man-made?
For the sins of the world.
Who knows? It could be cyclical. We could end up making it and somehow resetting it, and then the Big Bang happens all over again.
Big Bang is meaningless.
Big
Bang is
Who knows?
meaningless.
Critical.
Big Bang theory is meaningless.
Well, there may not even have been a Big Bang. No, of course it's not. It's a theory.
There's a reason why a Big Bang theory is merely a
It's a theory.
theory.
Yeah. All of these things are theories because we don't know. Yeah.
But now, what is the most substantial evidence? And I'll tell you what's the most substantial evidence that this world has a creator. And the most
That it exists. I would say.
that it exists. Okay. Now the most substantial referencing that we can say to fall back upon about the existence of this planet must be something, right? There must be something there. Whether
That is the only evidence. That it
what
exists.
is? Okay, fine. I'll tell you what our evidence is.
Okay.
Our evidence is the Quran. And the reason for this
And
is...
this goes back to what I was saying is it's faith that you're relying on, not logic and rationality. Religion's based on faith. You are asked to have faith, and your reward is eternal paradise if you have faith. They're not asking you to rationally believe in that.
Supposing you do have a creator. Supposing we do have a creator. I mean, and the example that I gave from that coffee cup, I think I led on to another analogy. But supposing we do have a creator, that creator fashioned us in our face, our eyes, our mechanics, our biology, everything. Yeah. That creator would have also, by his will, if we do have a creator, I'm sure you would know that a creator would be omniscient, he would be all powerful, right? Because everything from your rationality. Yeah, from your rationality, you would know that he is the one who designed everything under him.
Doesn't necessarily mean
No?
he's all-powerful and omniscient.
No?
I mean, you know,
With your rationality, with your understanding of things.
No, it's a bit of a leap of, I don't want to say leap of faith, but maybe a non sequitur to say that just because someone created something, they're therefore omniscient and powerful.
Fine. Would you at least then come to accept or to agree upon the point, yeah? The hypothetical point now, that he would at least have an understanding upon what he created.
Yes.
And that, okay, fine, and that he would at least have a deeper understanding than that of which he created.
Possibly, yeah.
Fine. So God, if there is a God and he created our body and our biology, it would mean that he would be an amazing scientist if he was a man. Or if his science could be measured, right? He would at least get an A star,
Depends on
wouldn't he?
how you believe he created us. He could have just kickstarted the process of evolution, or he could have crafted us on a crafting
And
table.
then it goes on by itself. I mean, we're standing in 2017, yeah? Every computer technology that has ever existed was created by men, right?
Yeah.
Have computers now gone on to create themselves?
Not really, no.
So would that not go against that logic that you've just spoken of? Would that not be irrational to the whole point of that?
Why do you think that goes against that logic?
Because if you were to say that, for example, God created something, but then those things evolved themselves.
Yeah.
But wasn't it God that fashioned it? For example, you get to wheels. The first person that created a wheel, I don't know what his name was or who he was, but he created a wheel.
Yeah.
Now, he did all of the measurements about force times this times that and whatever it is. I was always rubbish at maths. Yeah? I passed it, but I just scraped it. Yeah. And that wheel rolled. The person that invented the wheel, they knew the wheel would roll, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
When they actually brought it onto the market and patented it. You know, they put a patent on it or whatever it is that they needed to do.
Stone Age patent.
Stone Age patenting, yeah? Fine. So, surely, now if there was a creator, again, he would know the exact fashion of this universe. The fact that we have 4 conditional seasons, yeah? Throughout a 12-month period in brackets in London within a day. Okay, yeah, we go through winter, spring, summer and autumn sometimes in one day in London, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah? Fine. And some countries go through it in seasonal. Yeah?
Yeah.
But he patented that, didn't he? Would anyone else have been able to control that other than the one who created
He
those
could still
seasons?
have created a universe, and through random processes, we ended up with it being with the seasons and the environment being the way it is.
Fine. We have a book, and I'll go back to it. Yeah? The reason why I have certainty in the things that I speak to you of is because we have a book that speaks of scientific miracles that were never ever pertained to science until they were explored and they spent billions and billions of dollars and pounds and yen and whatever it was to establish the truths and the falsities behind these actual experiments.
To science at the time. The ancient Greeks worked out that the Earth was round long before we did. Then we regressed back into thinking we had a flat Earth during the Middle Ages, and then suddenly science proved it all over again.
Those Greeks that you say, the textual evidence that they have is very, very weak here and now today, and it's very, very plain very plain as well, and some indecisiveness and incorrectness compared to the text of the Quran. Our Lord, who we believe is the author of the Quran, Allah, in chapter 4 of the Quran, chapter 4 of the Quran, verse 82, he challenges anyone and everyone to find contradictions within the text of the Quran. Now, this is not just a book that shares opinions, because opinions are ambiguous at the end of the day. Opinions don't stand for any truth. They are an opinion, therefore they can't really be faulted in terms of fact, unless it was something very, very clear and decisive. Now, this Quran, I don't know how many verses. Does anyone know how many verses are compiled to make our beautiful Quran?
6,352. 6352.
6,566.
6,000. No, it's not. No, it's not. 6,000? 6352. Allah. 6352.
All right, so around 6,000. So 6,000 verses in the Quran, and God challenges in the 4th chapter in verse 82 to find contradictions in the text of any and all in the entirety and totality, or singling out the individuality of these over 6,000 verses in the Quran. And that challenge was something that was stated 1400 years ago and is yet to be established or exploited. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So because of this is a reason. I'm not going
this
to
is
wait.
What gives you faith.
This is one of the reasons that I have faith in the text of the Quran. You know, if I was, for example, to come to you and approach you now and say, all right, Ben, tell you what, put some fingers behind your back, or think of a number, okay? Now, the only human being, the only physical being that would know the number that you were thinking of would be yourself, We're standing in 2017 and there are still not any established mind-reading machinery, that can establish or ascertain that kind of truth that only you live with. So you thought of a number 41, for example, and I said to you, Ben, you're thinking of the number 41. What would you think about me?
I'd probably be surprised and I'd think, how the hell has he done that?
And I do it 20 times over. I do it with you from sunrise to sunset. What would you?
I wouldn't assume you were a god straight away.
What would you conclude to?
I would conclude that you had some sort of technology implanted in your head, or some weird, unnatural ability that was as yet unexplained.
Fine. However, that technology is not something that you've seen evidence to, number one, and it's not something that you've seen man create, number two, and it's not something that shares any form of logic in this world, number three. It is a hypothetical, but it's still using your chain of logic, your chain of thought. It's using your chain of rationality. This is your platform of rationality that I am speaking to.
It's not conclusive.
It's not conclusive. Fine. The Quran, we believe, is conclusive. Why? Because everything that was stated in the Quran, all of the scientific miracles that were, have turned out to be ascertained true fact. You know, I mean, actually, there was something interestingly enough that I read not too long ago.
I think it could well have been that they just had competent scientists of the day.
We could go to the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But if I, for example, we're standing in Speaker's Corner,
and that's a more likely solution or conclusion to me. Just like I think it's more likely that Mary chieftain Joseph and Muhammad made it all up from a mountain. Again, forgive me for saying that.
No, that's absolutely fine. Please.
So what would be the probability of each one of those claims being correct? Taking them aside.
I think it's more likely.
What are the probabilities?
I mean, there could have been any other. I can't give you a mathematical probability, but there could have been any other things that happened. Muhammad, he may not have made it all up, but it may have been someone else telling him these things. Mary may not have cheated on her husband, but he may have not realised that he had created this baby. I don't know.
Ben, you know what? I applaud you for the way that you challenge yourself. I really do, and I'm not saying this in a patronising way, because a lot of people, they go into a faith blindly, and then they end up just being their own worst devastation. For example, their own destruction, self-destruction, so to speak. I mean, for yourself, everything that you've believed up until now in this world, and everything that you see, is something that you have ascertained true faith to. Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
However, the first question that I asked you, well, one of the first questions that I asked you, now we've gone off the point of the fact that everything in your world, so to speak, you've ascertained to have true certainty in everything around you.
Everything I'm aware of is absolutely certain.
But you know what we've been speaking about for the past, I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes, or whatever it is? I asked you if you had certainty that there was no God, and you said no.
Yeah.
Fine. I have certainty that there is a God with my evidence. Do you have certainty that there's not a God with yours?
No, I don't.
So now, that leads me to one of those first questions that I
Your
asked.
certainty is based on faith, and yet
Absolutely.
they do seem like scientific miracles. And
Absolutely. I mean,
thereby
it
confirming
wouldn't-
your faith. But I just think that could be more likely put down to scientific faith.
Fine. If you were sitting in a science exam when you were in school, and the teacher came and told you the exact questions that would be in the exam, you could then go and revise those questions. Yeah, if you had the mental capabilities for it, and the patience, and the physical sustainability to sit in that exam, and you could get 100% in that exam if you wanted to, right?
Yep.
Right. So if God came and He showed Himself to us, yeah, now our test would be very different in terms of faith. Now, God tests us for our faith. God tests us for 6 things as Muslims, and I'll go through them with you quickly, if you don't mind.
I mean, have to take off in a moment, but are you talking about the 5 pillars or no?
Those are the 5 pillars of Islam. These are 5.
Sorry?
You know about 5 pillars.
Vaguely, yeah.
So there are 6 things that God tests us on upon our belief. The first being the oneness of Him, our Almighty, yeah? The oneness of His existence. The second being the angels of God.
Yeah.
So like as we mentioned Angel Gabriel earlier, yeah? Thirdly, the prophets and messengers of God, so the people that transferred that revelation, yeah?
Yeah.
And the inheritance of the prophets, which was monotheism, which was La ilaha illallah, or in English, there's no deity worthy of worship but Allah. Yeah. The fourth of them being the books. So the books that some of these prophets came down with, the Quran, the Old Testament, the Psalms of David, the 10 Commandments, etc., etc. The fifth being Judgment Day, including heaven and hell.
Yeah.
And the sixth being divine decree or predestiny. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, no one in this world, yeah, as educated as they are, can ever go to prove the unexistence of any of these pillars of faith. However, the way that we can prove the existence of any of these pillars of faith, plus any other statement, is because this book has already proved to be authentic in terms of who it came from, or the entity that it came from. So in that book...
that proof you're talking about is the confirmation of these scientific so-called miracles?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay.
Now, if we were to now speak on the other scope, the other side of the window now, when you said, all right, well, we can use the same kind of understanding and rationality to open up or unpack Christianity, and Christianity at its totality, yeah? Or individuality, yeah? Fine. But the only thing with that is, when anyone does it with their rationality and educated stance upon it, yeah, on unpacking this, they will always find contradictions in the text. So when you find an imperfection in the text, the imperfection proves that the imperfection means that the text is not perfect. However, 1400 years down the line, we can't prove that the text of the Quran is imperfect. Do you know, Ben, I know you were saying that you have to go, and you've been an amazing guy to stand there and be so patient to listen to me. What I would just leave it upon, yeah, and if there is anything that you want to leave me upon as well, I promise you, out of respect, I will ponder upon it.
I'm not quite going to take your word for it that the Quran is perfect.
Absolutely.
I'll have to look at it myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't looked at it myself. Maybe I will one day. But thank you very much for your time, Harry.
It's a pleasure. What I will say, Ben, before you go off, is that our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that there's no compulsion in religion. And our Prophet also said that knowledge is the key to worship. How can we worship something that we don't know? You know, you're a guy that's been able to stand and hold an educated discussion with me, and I really, really applaud you for that. A lot of people, I think you're an exemplary figure for a lot of Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And I really thank you for that.